Welcome back. In this video, how to maximize profits. Let's do it. Alright, so we start again with our principle of marginal analysis, and this is the idea that every activity should continue until the marginal benefit of that activity is equal to the marginal cost of continuing it. So we have our supply and demand model. We know that the supply curve is representing a marginal cost, the additional cost from doing one more unit of this activity. The marginal benefit is represented by the demand curve, downward sloping, the marginal benefit we receive from enjoying one more unit of this. And as long as the marginal benefit is greater than or equal to the marginal cost, we continue to do it. Once the marginal benefit is equal to the marginal cost, we stop. We do not consume or produce any units for which the marginal cost is greater than the marginal benefit. That's going to be a huge part for us in this section and the rest of AP Micro. Alright, so just a couple things, reminders. Total revenue equals price times quantity, meaning the number of units sold. The profit is the total revenue minus total costs, and we are thinking both explicit and implicit. By the way, unless a test question ever asks you specifically about accounting profit, always assume economic profit. This is an economics class, not an accounting class. So unless you see that word accounting in front of the word profit, then I want you to always consider both explicit and implicit costs. As output increases, both total revenue and total costs rise. That makes sense. So as our units sold, our quantity increases, our revenue rises. And so you can see here, this good must be selling for $18 per unit because our total revenue increases by $18 with each additional unit sold, it looks like. And the total cost, we can see that they're variable, but we can see that that number is getting larger as we move through the table. The profit then is the difference between those two things, and we can see again that there is a point there where our profit peaks at the 6th unit and it starts to decrease again. So the question is going to be, how can we find that spot? Is there a more simple way to figure out what's the profit maximizing quantity? Alright, so we have marginal revenue, which is the additional revenue from selling one more unit of output. So when we go from selling 0 units to 10 units, our marginal revenue is $10 because our revenue went from 0 to $10. When we go from the 3rd unit to the 4th unit, our total revenue increased by from $24 to $28, which means our marginal revenue is $4. So it is the change in total revenue over the change in quantity, meaning of output. We also have to consider our marginal cost. It is the additional cost incurred from selling one more unit of output. So just like our revenue increases when we sell more units, so do our marginal costs typically. And so it's the change in total cost divided by the change in the quantity of output. In this case, you have the quantities increasing by 1 at a time. So when we go from unit 2 to unit 3, our total cost went from $36 to $44, so our marginal cost is $8. From unit 6 to unit 7, we went from $90 to $116, so our marginal cost is $26. Alright, so we have something known as the optimal output rule. It is the single most important thing in AP Microeconomics. Profit is maximized by producing the quantity at which the marginal revenue of the last unit produced is equal to its marginal cost. So as long as the marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, remember that revenue is money coming into the firm. So if they are gaining more money in revenue than it is costing them to produce that unit, then they should absolutely continue to produce. Profit is maximized at the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. If they were to continue producing after that point, when marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue, their net gain would actually turn negative, and so that would be something that they would clearly want and need to avoid. So you can see that here in these examples of the table on the screen here for you. Our profit is going to be maximized at the quantity where the marginal cost and marginal revenue are both the same. In this case, they're both 18. There's no further net gain, so we have maximized profit. Alright, again, just to say it because it's this important, MR equals MC, that is the quantity. So we can always, for all types of markets we're going to learn this year, if we want to find the quantity, how many units should they produce if they want to maximize profit, the answer is find where the marginal revenue curve intersects with the marginal cost curve, and we will have our answer. All right, so speaking of the marginal cost curve, I'll probably teach this more extensively in class, but the idea is that's what it looks like on the right-hand side. It is kind of swoosh-shaped. It looks like a Nike check, sort of. So it initially falls, and that's due to gains from specialization. So by employing more labor, you become more productive faster, and so the marginal cost actually initially decreases. But then it rises due to diminishing marginal returns. So I'll talk about this more in class, but the idea is, let's say that you have a little pizzeria and you have only one employee. That employee has to do everything. By incurring the cost of employing a second employee, they can both become so much more productive that you're going to have gains in quantity of output that are going to be much larger than the increase in marginal cost, or in total cost, I should say, leading to that marginal cost curve actually declining for a little bit. As you get a 10th, 11th, 12th employee in this small little business, they aren't going to really add as much benefit, and so we end up with diminishing marginal returns as our marginal costs rise quickly. Marginal revenue curve shows the increase in total revenue as a result of selling an additional unit of output, and it can look two ways. It can look like you have on the left side, which is just a horizontal line, and it could also be a downward sloping curve below the demand curve. I'm not too worried about marginal revenue in this section. You will learn when to use which, so for now, focus on marginal cost. One more time, the optimal output rule is to produce the quantity at which marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. That will get us where we need to be. That is the proper quantity to produce if the goal of the firm is to maximize profit. This has been a La Money production.